Sixers have been struggling as of late. After a good start to the month of January, Philadelphia is just 2-4 over their last 6 games. So, is this a cause for concern, or can the Sixers look to turn it around? We'll look at some numbers during this 6 game stretch to figure out that answer. Before we get into all that, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to everybody who joined us for our Sixers Suns watch party last night, even though Philadelphia, of course, lost that game. It was great to see everybody there hanging out with us on the channel. Another big game for the Sixers coming up tomorrow on Thursday against the Houston Rockets. If you want us to go live again for that one, go ahead, hit that like button on today's show. If we can get, say, over 200 likes on this video, we'll go live for that game. So let's set the foundation here and start off by taking a look at the Eastern Conference standings right now. This is as of Wednesday, January 21st, before any games have been played. Sixers sit at 23-19, just 4 games over 500 after that loss to Phoenix. They do stay in the 5 seed, same record there as the Orlando Magic at number 6. And of course, things are still pretty tight, really from 2 all the way down to that 7, 8, 9 range. Sixers only 3 games in the loss column behind the Boston Celtics. But as I mentioned off the top, Philadelphia is just 2-4 over their last 6 games, including 2 losses to the Cleveland Cavaliers and a loss to the Toronto Raptors, some teams they're fighting for with positioning in the Eastern Conference. So, as I mentioned, is this a cause for concern? Can the Sixers start to pick things up? Well, let's take a look at some numbers during this stretch. Over their last 6 games, these numbers here have not been looking good for Philadelphia. I think you can point to some of these numbers here as reasons why Philadelphia has lost 4 of these last 6. Just 23rd in offensive rating is Philadelphia over these last 6 games. The defense has still been pretty good. You'll notice if you go through some of these numbers, like defensively for the most part, the Sixers have turned it around from early in the year when they were awful to now being at least a top half defensive team. But the offense, at least during this stretch, has not been able to say the same. And especially when it comes from shooting the ball from outside, Philadelphia has not been good. 26 in 3-pointers made per game, under 11. Shooting just 33% from 3 as well. That is 23rd. And then some big issues. The rebounding, been an issue all year, and we'll talk more about this in a second. 30th, dead last, are the Sixers in defensive rebounds per game over their last 6 at just 29. Also dead last in assists per game over their last 6 games at 20.8. Look, the 3-point shot, it kind of comes and goes. Maxey struggled a little bit. We'll look at Maxey's numbers here in a second. I'm not too worried about that. And honestly, the ball movement, the assists per game, I think for the most part, the ball movement has been pretty good. When you don't make shots, you can't get assists, right? So I'm not too worried about that. Sixers also, you have guys like Maxey and Embiid, more isolation heavy. That number is going to be lower. It has all year. I'm not really concerned about that. Where I am concerned, though, and again, we've talked about this for a large part of the year, is the rebounding issue. I think for a little while there, the Sixers kind of did a decent job of not letting this issue kill them. And even when you look at the numbers against Phoenix last night and the 2 losses to Cleveland, the numbers don't say Philadelphia gave up that many offensive rebounds and were dominated in second chance points. In fact, the Sixers had more offensive rebounds and had more second chance points than the Suns did last night. But just watching the games, it just feels like a big issue. And there were some big moments where Philadelphia is trying to come back, specifically in that game against Phoenix last night. And in a big spot, Mark Williams is grabbing an offensive rebound. Sixers giving up second chance points. Phoenix, hitting a 3 off an offensive rebound in a big spot. So it's timely as well when it comes to giving up these offensive rebounds. And it's really a personnel issue, right? Obviously, when Embiid doesn't play, Drummond plays a lot more, and he's a good rebounder, but he can't play the whole game. So when Embiid's not out there and Drummond's not out there, Adembona just has not been good on the glass this year. He does have his moments, especially defensively blocking shots, showing off the athleticism, but just not a good rebounder. He's only 6'9". He's undersized. Even when Embiid does play, not like Embiid's a great rebounder at this point in his career anyways, because he's not moving his feet, moving around all that well. So I think this is an issue Philadelphia has to address. I don't see this issue getting better without a personnel change happening. So at the deadline, whether it's shipping off someone like an Eric Gordon. Maybe you do ship off an Andre Drummond, or maybe they surprisingly ship off an Adem Bona. I know shipping off Drummond wouldn't really make sense because he doesn't hurt, the offensive rebounding issue. He certainly helps there, but, a veteran who is on an expiring deal, whatever the move is, doesn't really matter. I think there has to be some kind of move to address this issue. Otherwise, I don't see it getting better. Can they survive with the way it's going right now? Maybe, but it just makes it so much harder on your defense, where Sixers have been pretty good defensively, but when you're giving up offensive rebounds constantly over and over, it really does make it more difficult to get stops. Let's talk about Tyrese Maxey next, because Maxey obviously having a tremendous season, right? And I don't want to harp on the bad with Maxey too much over these last 6 games because he has been so spectacular all season long. Of course, is an all-star starter this year. And look, these numbers aren't awful for a lot of players across the NBA. These would be amazing numbers to be putting up in a 6-game stretch. But over these last 6, Maxey 26, 6 assists, 3.5 rebounds. The efficiency, though, has not been there, at least not nearly like it has been all season long. 42% from the field, 34% from 3. He's been much closer to 50% from the field and 40% from 3 this season. And when you're watching some of these games, and I know last night was the second half of a back-to-back, so naturally you're going to look a little bit more tired, and you might see some more fatigue issues on a night like that where, again, second night of a back-to-back, and Maxey plays a lot of minutes. But he did look a little fatigued. A lot of shots, especially from deep, hitting off the front of the rim. And you see that more from time to time, I think, recently than you did to start the year. Are the minutes finally starting to catch up with Tyrese Maxey? He's playing a ton of minutes. We mentioned it earlier in the year as a possible cause for concern if it continued. And although the minutes have dropped a little bit, take a look at these stats. Tyrese Maxey is playing the most minutes per game of any player in 15 years. 15 years. It's just not sustainable, and that's why his minutes have dropped a little bit as of late. But I am kind of concerned that maybe the minutes and all this wear and tear is starting to catch up to Maxey a little bit. He did say last night he did feel a little bit tired at times, and there's still a lot of season left to go, and you don't want that happening in January. I think maybe to solve this, and again, we talked about maybe trading for a big that fits the rebounding issue, you might have to make a move for another guard. And this can be a smaller move. Doesn't have to be for a tremendously, high-level player, but another body to bring in here. Because Jared McCain right now, unfortunately, is unplayable. The Sixers thought they were going to have this great guard rotation, and obviously with Maxey, Edgecombe, Grimes, we'll talk about Grimes here in a minute, and McCain, you would have those 4 guys, but McCain just has not been able to get a steady role for the Sixers, so you might have to bring somebody else in to ease the burden a little bit more on Maxey if you're not going to be able to really play Jared McCain this season. And this brings me to talking about Grimes, who I did just mention. Grimes had a great start to the year. I loved what I saw from him. He was an early 6th Man of the Year candidate, but has struggled as of late. And, Nick Nurse talked about maybe moving Quentin Grimes to the starting lineup to get him going a little bit, because coming off the bench hasn't been working for him as of late. You can see during this 6-game stretch for Philadelphia, under 10 points a game, shooting just 40% from the field and under 30% from 3. He had moments, I thought, in last night's game where he sparked a little bit of energy here and there. And defensively, he is still a good player. Don't get me wrong. This is more offensively speaking that we're talking about. But again, the offense has been the issue for Philadelphia in this stretch, and this certainly plays a part. Grimes has really been a frustrating watch over this last stretch of games. A guy like him, you want him to be able to make his shots from the outside, but sometimes they'll fall, sometimes they won't. Where I've been most frustrated watching Quentin Grimes is attacking the basket. Such an inconsistent finisher. The Sixers as a whole couldn't finish a layup last night, but man, Grimes has just not been able to buy a bucket at the rim over the past couple of weeks. So it's been frustrating. I still like Grimes. I believe in him. I think he can get back to what he was doing earlier in the season, and I think his best role is still coming off the bench. But man, he's got to find a rhythm, because Sixers, they really depend on him, and they could really use him for some of that bench production and bench spark. I don't want to keep it all negative here, because during this stretch, one thing that the Sixers have found is the Kelly Oubre resurgence coming off the injury. A little bit slow for Oubre in the first couple games, but man, the last 3 games for Kelly Oubre have been fantastic. He was great again last night. I think hit 5 threes and was really the only Sixers player that could hit from outside, which is surprising when you consider, his traditional skill set. And the percentage he usually shoots from three, but it's been a career year offensively for Kelly Oubre. He was aggressive. He was attacking. He was amazing defensively as well. First possession of the game, gets a steal, gets a transition dunk. So big shout out to Kelly Oubre. Love what I'm seeing from him. Again, this is why I don't think the Sixers can move Oubre, because he's been one of the lone bright spots really over the past couple of weeks. Now, we've gone through some of these problems, some of the reasons the Sixers have been dropping games as of late. So the big question that I mentioned off the top of the show, can the Sixers turn it around, or is this spelling some bad news for Philadelphia? I'll give you my opinion here coming up in just a moment. Real quick, though, want to tell you about a great deal you got to take advantage of, and an item you got to go and get your hands on right now in this Sixers Hardwood Classic crew neck that I do own myself. I've worn it on the show before. If you're a real one around here, you would know that. I actually saw some people during the game last night as well wearing this in the stands at Xfinity Mobile Arena. It's a sick item. Obviously, a lot of throwback gear has been released for Philadelphia with the Sixers script on the front, the NBA Finals logo up there on the shoulder. Chatsports.com/76classiccrew is where you can get this crew neck. Of course, supplies are limited, so go ahead, take advantage before it's too late. So, can this problem be fixed? Can the Sixers turn it around and turn into, an upper echelon team in the Eastern Conference? Or is this just who the Sixers are? Unfortunately, I think this just might be who the Sixers are. Now, I'm not saying that they might just be this bad of a team where they're losing 4 out of every 6 games. What I mean is, I think the Sixers have shown us all year they're kind of an inconsistent team. And they're kind of a good but not great team who has some runs of good play, has some runs of bad play, but never really getting too high, never really getting too low either. You take a look at some of these numbers that have really shown us all year who the Sixers just might actually be. The Sixers this year, against teams that are 500 or better, are just 9-14. So when they're playing the upper echelon competition, haven't been all that great. Now, against below 500 teams, they're taking care of business, 14-5. You want to see that when you're playing those bad teams. That obviously means the Sixers aren't one of those bad teams because they are beating those below average teams, but haven't been all that great. Not terrible, but not all that great against teams 500 or better. You'd like that record to be a little closer to like 12-12, around 500 against those teams. Sixers have been dropping some of those games as of late. So that's not a great sign when you talk about can the Sixers turn into one of those better teams out there. And look, you go back to the start of the season, Sixers right now, 4 games over 500, right? Remember in October, they started 4-1, won their first 4 games. It was great. Since then, again, they've kind of been a middle-of-the-pack team every single month. 6-8 in November, 7-5 in December, 6-5 in January. Kind of showing us the team they have been. And again, we talk about them maybe being streaky in terms of they have some good play, they have some bad play, but there's been no point in the season where the Sixers have gone on a huge run of winning games or losing games. Their longest winning streak this season is 4 games. Those were the first 4 games of the year back in October. But their longest losing streak this season, only 3 games, which happened once in December. Other than that, Sixers haven't lost more than 2 games in a row outside of that one stretch. So, again, the Sixers really haven't been able to maintain a stretch of great play for all that long, but they also haven't been losing a lot of games in a row for all that long. So they're kind of just middle of the road at this point. So, the issues they're facing right now, I'm not concerned that it means they're going to be a bottom of the barrel team. I think it kind of falls in line with what they've been, which is an inconsistent team with some stretches of good play, some stretches of bad play. So look, really to kind of bring this all together, I think the Sixers are just an inconsistent middle of the road team right now, right? They're not getting too high. They're not getting too low. They kind of struggle a little bit against the better teams, but they're able to take care of business against the bad teams as well. That's just what they are right now, and it's what they've shown us to be really all season long. Now, of course, there's plenty of season left, right? The trade deadline's coming up soon as well, so some changes can be made to the roster, and certainly anything can happen when you get in the playoffs, but they have to show us that they can make those improvements if they want to be taken seriously as a contender in the East. I was talking over the past couple of weeks, I think they have what it takes. I do think the Sixers still have what it takes on the roster, personnel-wise, to compete in the East. But it's got to come together, and they've got to be able to show they can sustain a high level of play for longer than they've been able to. You want to go deep in the playoffs, you've got to play your best for multiple weeks in a row. And the Sixers just have not done that this season. Now, again, some reason for optimism. I've talked about this before. Throw it back to the Indiana Pacers team of last year. The team, of course, made the NBA Finals and won the Eastern Conference. This time last year, they were 24-19. Obviously, very, very similar to the 23-19 the Sixers are right now. The difference is the back half of the year, after the trade deadline, the Indiana Pacers really picked it up down the stretch, were playing great and played their best basketball when it mattered most. Can the Sixers do that? We'll have to wait and see. It's hard to predict it. Sixers are a very unpredictable team right now. They kind of play up to their competition. They play down to their competition as well a little bit. It's really hard to know. So we'll just have to wait and see what the second half of the season brings. Before we hop on out here, I want to leave you guys with this question right here. Do you trust the Sixers to win a playoff series right now? If the playoffs started tomorrow, could the Sixers win a playoff series against one of the top teams out east? Right now, because the Sixers haven't been able to show they can win games consistently over an extended period of time, I don't know that I would say yes. But you let me know, certainly. Type yes, type no, join the conversation down in the comments. Be sure to hit that sub button, and we'll see you next time right here on 76ers Now.